I'm Kristina Neil, and I'm a gender specialist.
Kristina, what inspired you to become an advocate for abortion rights?
I think my general empathy for people and my own understanding of how oppressive systems work, and then being a girl going to girls' schools, I've had and experienced people around me having and wanting an abortion and the difficulty to get one because of the kind of constraints that exist here in Jamaica. So that in and of itself sort of pushed me in the direction of either interrogating why it is that we don't have more accessible abortions here in Jamaica, as well as figuring out how do we respond to that lack of access. So that's how I ended up in this space.
Can you talk to me about a particular campaign or initiative that you're proud to be a part of?
For sure, I can talk about many. Uh, One of the things I'm completely proud of is an online protest that we did with We Change. So it was myself and two of my colleagues, Shante Porteous and Tajna Lee Shields. It was during a time where we felt completely frustrated by the lack of movement from our government, right? So we would have been talking about abortion rights for a long time. And we had just gotten to the point where we were completely frustrated and at the heights of our emotions. And at the time, we decided that something that we wanted to do was an all-out attack. And we came up with the idea of doing this online protest where the point of it was to bombard as many members of parliament as possible with facts about abortion, about the rate of deaths as a result of unsafe abortions, as well as to ask them to publicly let us know what it is that what their personal stance on abortion is. We got it into our heads that as members of parliament, as people who represent our own needs, as people who represent our thoughts and our ideas on or within the space of decision making, that we actually do have the power to ask them and nudge them into action and into movement. So we enacted this campaign. I think it was probably during the pandemic, like the early stages of the pandemic, if I remember correctly. And we reached out to our volunteers, people who would have been working with We Change for a long time, but also people who would have been interested in abortion rights advocacy and just around abortion rights in general. And we said, listen, here's what we're going to do. On this day, at this time, we're going to have everybody change their photos to Abortion Stand JA, which has been the sort of rallying call for We Change at the time. And we're just going to at everyone, right? And it turned out to be such an amazing experience for me, mostly because it was solidarity and coalition in action. You saw people coming together around a cause that was so important and so necessary. And we also actually got to see a lot of members of parliament declaring what their position was on abortion. So even if they weren't pro-abortion, they were at the very least pro the idea of a person being able to make a decision about their lives. We did get a lot of pushback from some members of parliament, from some people who thought it was too combative of a strategy, but never really care about the noise, to be honest. I knew and I felt that this was one of the best things that we could do for the movement. We've done lobbying, we've done writing letters to the editor, we've done petitioning and having conversations with members of parliament. There is a time for just complete emotional expression, and I felt like this campaign was it.
Can you describe an instance where your advocacy made a tangible difference in someone's life?
So at We Change, we would have been getting a lot of requests from people about how to access abortions, where they need to go, asking for support in either, more often than not, it's logistical and financial support that they request. And we would have endeavored our best to direct them to the safest avenue possible. And having done that for a couple of years, it it dawned on me the level of work that's needed, specifically community work that's needed to respond to the lack of access or the inaccessibility. And so one of the things that I did was I saw something called an abortion doula training, and I was curious about it because I've never heard of something like that before. When I hear of the word doula, we usually think about birthing and somebody who is supporting another person to give birth. So when I saw abortion doula, I signed up for the class, and I had what I think was probably one of the more transformative moments of my life, and what I would consider my turn in how I think about abortion. And as a result of that, I thought it would be an excellent idea to incorporate the same thing within our community at We Change. And so with some funding, I and my friend Shante Portios, as I mentioned, we created the abortion companion training. And what that was we decided that abortion isn't just a legislative or a policy issue, right? It's actually a community issue. And as a result of it being a community issue, we needed to create a community response to it. And so with the abortion companion training, we got together, I think, about 20 persons in the first cohort, where we had, I think, some really beautiful conversations on what abortion is, the legislation that surrounds abortion, not just locally, but regionally and internationally. We went into details about how an abortion is actually experienced. And as a result of how it's experienced, what's the kind of support that people will need. And I think from that conversation, I think a lot of people recognize that abortions isn't just going to get the pill or going to the abortion man to get the abortion, right? It's a full spectrum thing that needs emotional support, logistical support, very practical support. Like, if you have to miss a day of work to have an abortion, you might need somebody to come drop off some food, or you need somebody to drop off some painkillers, or you need somebody to buy a couple pads for you so that you can have with you. Through that conversation, we recognize that, again, abortion is something that's so deeply personal and so intra-communal that the response can't just be let's advocate to the government, but it's how can we practically write down and document the ways that we can support people. And I thought that was one of the most fulfilling moments in my journey as an advocate.
What has been your experience in political lobbying in pushing the needle for abortion rights in Jamaica?
It's mostly been a frustrating experience. And I say frustrating because we've done this process before where we make submissions to the government, and it has felt like each iteration of that, we've just been moving backwards as opposed to forwards. In 2019, I believe it was the year when I was one of the co-writers for We Change's submission to Parliament. And truthfully, here in 2024, I have no idea what the results of that is, like what the decision was as a result of all of us coming together, doing this work to petition the government, to share information, to have our voices be heard, because people say that that's the best way to have your voice be heard. I still don't know what the result is of that conversation. So it's been extremely frustrating, extremely angering, and it feels like you get burnt out. The more that you're asked to follow this route of lobbying the government, you feel extremely burnt out after the fact.
What impact did global movements for abortion rights have on Jamaica's advocacy efforts?
I'd say it has had quite a large impact on my advocacy, but also on me and how I think about abortion rights. Specifically, feminists and advocates in Latin America and Central America. And the thing is, they're just so extremely passionate about abortion rights, but also they seem to have a deeper understanding of abortion rights, the fact that it's connected to so many things, including just autonomy and our right to exist as people who can get pregnant. And so I've taken a lot of inspiration from them, both in terms of the idea of having an abortion doula or an abortion companion, somebody who walks with you, literally walks with you, and figuratively walk with you through your abortion. And that was actually the primary inspiration for the creation of the abortion companion training. It was taken directly from the initiatives and strategies that they would have used in their context to ensure abortion access.
The Abortion Stand JA campaign gained thousands of engagement online and sparked online conversations around abortion for days. What do you believe is the role of the digital space in abortion advocacy and other reproductive rights issues?
So it goes without saying that the digital space has kind of democratized politics, meaning it's provided a landscape and a space for people who previously didn't have or feel empowered to communicate their desires. They now have a space to do so. So I think the digital space and social media has such a great way of connecting us. And I think that's what has made the abortion movement and reproductive justice movement, I think, as successful as it is. Maybe success isn't the word, but as impactful, because we're able to reach people who we might not have been able to reach, but we're also able to share a lot of information. For example, again, I came into a lot of my knowledge around abortion, justice, and reproductive justice because of the digital spaces that I've been entangled with. Because of those spaces, I was able to connect abortion to justice, and not just to right, but seeing it as justice, seeing it as something that people, something where the lack of its existence is severely impacting and affecting people's lives, and specifically the lives of people who are generally marginalized by varying structures. So the digital space acts as an additional tool of communication, an additional tool of sharing information, and an additional tool of connecting. So I think it's very critical to pair both the underground work that we do along with the digital space.
So, Kristina, what was the planning like for such a cohesive and well-received online campaign? How did you accomplish Abortion Stand JA?
So again, it wasn't an individual thing. So the hashtag, or the use of the hashtag Abortion Stand JA, actually started from around 2019. And I think it was Nicolette who came up with the hashtag, and it happened when we had our first demonstration in front of Gordon House. That's the Jamaican Parliament for anybody who's not Jamaican. We had our first demonstration there, and that's when the hashtag/movement was introduced to the Jamaican public. And then when we decided to do the online protest, the planning for that was in collaboration with Abortion Jamaica, which isn't functional right now. It's not operational, I should say, right now, but we did it in tandem with Abortion Jamaica because we needed the additional support. So what we did was we came up with the idea of doing both a digital aspect of it, but also a more traditional aspect of it. So writing letters to the editor, but also having people call and email their members of parliament to express what their position was on abortion. So the planning took a couple weeks to do because, again, we wanted this to be an extremely coordinated event. We didn't want people going off and doing their own thing. So it took Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups, emails to people, lengthy conversations, because we had to think about the impact of something like this. So would it have the kind of effect that we want it to have? What are the potential repercussions and challenges of doing something like this? Are we okay and open with the challenges and the risks that would come with it? And we were all okay with the potential risks. So again, it took a lot of, I would say, predominantly collaboration was the thing that would make something like this successful. Not just the fact that we at We Change had an idea, but that we were able to partner with and collaborate with people who were willing to go on this journey with us. So it was accomplished through collaboration.
What organizations and individuals have been instrumental in your work in abortion rights advocacy?
So I'd say the organizations that have been really impactful are Red Campanera, which is, I might be butchering that, which is sort of a group of abortion companions in Latin America. They've been extremely impactful in that I've gotten so much information from them just by observing the kind of work that they do. I'd also say that, again, Abortion Jamaica, when it was operational, was extremely impactful, specifically in terms of the collaboration that we had to execute the online protest. I'd also say Safe Abortion Action Fund, SAAF, which is one of the international organizations that We Change managed to get funding from to do a lot of abortion work. So these organizations have been just really great in terms of both collaborating with us, ensuring that the vision that we had for an abortion accessible society was possible. They really helped in terms of allowing us to be able to dream up that dream, either through funding, collaboration, or just by observing the kind of work that they do.
What do you hope for the future of abortion rights advocacy in Jamaica?
Truthfully, I'm a little pessimistic. If history is anything for us to go by, it just feels like we're gonna enter into another phase of lobbying the government. So my actual hope, though, is that through organizations like We Change, that we can develop an actual abortion rights movement in Jamaica, so that the work isn't localized to just We Change, or it's not localized to just a random group, but that there's an actual full solidified movement. Because I think in order for us to really move the needle in the direction that we want it to go, it's really going to take a lot of hands. And right now we don't have the hands. Right now people are still either unsure of or just generally afraid of being open about their opinions on abortion, especially abortion accessibility. Read. It's so critical for you to read, and I don't mean academic textbooks, I don't mean academic journals, though those are important, but read information and experiences that are coming from people who have done the work. Because again, one of the things that I learned throughout my abortion advocacy journey is that this movement isn't about pro-life or pro-choice. What it is about, it's about bodily autonomy, it's about self-determination, it's about justice, meaning it's looking at the fact that people in positions of power are taking away power from people, and they're enacting legislations, laws, infrastructures that continue to oppress other people. So I think one of the important things about starting any advocacy journey is recognizing that abortion rights isn't just about rights on paper, it's not about legislation, it's not about policy, but it's about this idea of justice, this idea of being free, and acknowledging that in order for all of us to be free, we need to have this right to self-determination. So definitely read, but also connect with your elders. And elders isn't necessarily somebody who is 60 years older than you are, but connect with people who have already been in this movement. That's how We Change has managed to have the kind of robust abortion advocacy that it's had for the last couple of years. It's because we stay connected to the people who would have done this before us, because you have to learn from them, you have to get as much knowledge and information and insight from them as possible, so that you can come up with an innovative or creative strategy to continue forward. So read your books and talk to your elders.